Hi everyone, welcome back to the Art of Business English. Andrew here again for episode 129, and this week I'm going to be looking at tips on communicating more clearly. So very important nowadays in business, in all aspects of business. I really believe that communication skills is probably the most important business skill that you can have. If you don't have effective communication skills, you're really going to struggle at work, and you're actually going to create a less productive environment and waste money and time in your company, which at the end of the day is not great. We really would like the opposite of that. So, some examples of poor communication skills affecting the organization really relate to, just this back and forth of emails or calls, or having unnecessary meetings because people don't really understand clearly what it is that they're required to do. So, having effective communication skills is, in my opinion, the most essential and most important business skill that you can have. So today I'm going to be looking at some of them, and I've got a few words here in this lesson which I'm going to quickly go over for you, the vocabulary and expressions from this episode. So we've got lead to, which is the first one, and that basically means to cause something to happen. Like this will lead to an effect. To blame someone, and if you blame someone for something, it means that you hold them responsible. It comes down to, it's an expression, so it really comes down to, it basically means to be essentially about this. This is like what is at the core or the root of this. To adopt is the next word, and that is to use an idea, make something yours. To dive in, if you want to dive in, it basically means that you undertake something, you do something enthusiastically, so you have a strong desire to do it. Another one is wound up. If you're wound up, you're very stressed. You think of something that you're like a string that you wind and wind and wind around. Eventually it becomes very tight. So this expression wound up means that you are nervous or stressed. Override, so that's to be more important than. So if something overrides something else, it means it's more important than the thing it's overriding. Eloquent means articulate, and to embrace is to welcome something. You're, hey, that's great. You embrace the idea, so you welcome the idea. You've got lingo. Now, lingo are, jargon, these types of words that people use within organizations that not everyone understands. And you've got blissfully unaware. Blissfully unaware means that you are ignorant to something, and it's not affecting your life in a negative way because you don't actually know that you're doing it wrong. Point something out is another one. That's to highlight something or to mention something. And finally, discourse is talk, or it's speech, or it's like a lecture. So let's dive in. I'm going to give you some tips today on how to become a more effective communicator. Right. The first one is speed and pace. So, a lot of people, we're busy most of the time. So people are always in a rush. And often people are in such a rush that they try and explain things really quickly, or they don't realize that they're wound up, so they're nervous, and they explain things really in a quite frantic way, and this can cause people to become nervous because they don't understand what you're saying a lot of the time. And this is a skill that we can also adopt in our native language. Speaking at the correct speed. Really, it makes a big difference. A lot of people speak quite quickly. A lot of people who are learning languages also think that if they speak quickly, then they sound more native. And it's actually, you couldn't be further from the truth, because speaking quickly actually detracts or reduces clarity, and it's not great for effective communication. So my first tip is to ensure that you moderate your the speed at which you speak. You'll notice that sometimes, for example, on this podcast, when I get a bit excited, I might speak a bit too fast. And it's a constant effort, especially for people like me who are very, I'm very outgoing and I love to talk a lot. trying to moderate your speed is a skill that you need to learn and work on, because it's difficult. Sometimes we actually forget that we're speaking quickly. And also, you can pace things out. So by pacing things out, you're not speaking really slowly like this. I mean, I'm not saying that you should speak in a monotone slowly. You do need to use intonation in your voice, because that will help make your message much more engaging. But, just moderate the speed and the pace at which you deliver information to people. And remember this, if you want people to understand you, it's your responsibility to get them to understand. It's not their responsibility. I mean, on their part, they need to listen effectively. However, a lot of people just, people never understand me. Why? Well, look at yourself before you start criticizing those around you. Maybe you're not an effective communicator. All right, the next one, and this is also related to speed and pace, is you need to learn to pause and reflect. So, if you can pause effectively, it's going to really allow people to understand you, because people need time to, absorb or take in the information that you're telling them. So a very effective pause will give people that breathing space. So, I mean, look at, I like to give the example of text. If you see a page that is full of text and there are no breaks or gaps to mark the difference between the paragraphs, you look at it and you think, wow, that's a lot of text to read, and it doesn't really get you very excited about reading it. However, if you see like nice paragraphs broken up and there's more space on the page, it seems much easier to read. So it's really important that you pause for effect, and you should also reflect on what's being said to you. You don't need to answer quickly when someone asks you something. You can pause, reflect on what they have asked you before you deliver your response or your answer to them. And this is, there's no rule that says you need to answer instantly. And if you're a public speaker, eloquent public speakers, they use pauses for great effect to really get people thinking about their message. So I encourage you to learn to use the pause effectively, and also to reflect on things before you answer. Okay, so that's another great tip to being a much better and more effective communicator. Next tip is really to work on your pronunciation, and at the same time, cherish your accent. So if you want to cherish something, it means that you love it and you appreciate it. Many people think that because they have an accent, it's actually a bad thing. They're like, oh, I've got a terrible accent. I don't want to have an accent. It's true that, you need to have correct pronunciation in order to be an effective communicator, because what I've found typically is that if non-native speakers often put like an accent or a stress on the wrong part of a word, and that makes the word sound wrong. They also don't really understand or appreciate the neutra, or the schwa in English. The schwa, as you know, is like this neutral sound that we use a lot. And that's really important as well to improve your pronunciation. So you need to have, good pronunciation. But at the same time, you should, be happy with your accent. Your accent is often what will make you, different from the rest of the people. If you're, an Italian working in London, then people cherish your accent. They like that, you're there speaking English with this lovely accent. And often people I wish I had such a cute or handsome accent. So a lot of people are attracted to accents, especially native English speakers. So don't be shy about your accent, actually appreciate it. But in saying that, you really need to work on your pronunciation. It's okay to have an accent, but the pronunciation of the words needs to be clear, and you need to make sure that you're putting the stress in the right place so that people can understand what you're saying. Because native people are expecting to hear words said in more or less a specific way. And when you say words with poor pronunciation, it's very confusing for a native speaker, okay? The next one is your choice of vocabulary. And this is really important because people love to use fancy lingo in organizations. And what actually happens is you often confuse people because they don't know exactly what that acronym or abbreviation or fancy office lingo expression means. And it can actually make people feel a bit uncomfortable because they're not part of the group. I don't know what you're meaning or what you mean by this, so I feel a bit excluded. And if you want to be an effective communicator, you need to choose actually quite simple vocabulary. There's no point in being super fancy and super articulate with your vocabulary if people don't understand what it means. So you need to be sensitive to that. And this is particularly true for native English speakers. They need to be sensitive to their colleagues who are non-native, and they should actually speak in more simplistic terms and quite clearly, as opposed to using very fancy, Oxford English vocabulary, because that's maybe great and wonderful if you're with your peers. But if you're with international colleagues or some customers, maybe they don't understand that vocabulary. They don't have knowledge, or their range of vocabulary is limited in that aspect. So choose your vocabulary carefully. And finally, before I move on to the next point, you need to be careful with the words that you pick up in emails and in meetings. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been in an organization and I've been reviewing students' emails to see what they need to improve, and they pick up an expression which they think they're using correctly, but in fact they're blissfully unaware of the fact that their actual understanding of this expression is wrong, and they keep applying it to emails or to situations where it doesn't work. And they think that they sound great. I've picked up a native expression, when in fact they are using it incorrectly, and it does lead to some confusion. So be careful. Make sure, if possible, check your expressions with a native person in your organization, just to make sure that you have it clear. Don't just assume that what you're using is correct. Okay. So another one, and the last point here today, is to structure your ideas. We need to use what we call linking expressions. Linking expressions will help you create a nice discourse that flows from one point to the next. And this is great. You can do this both in written or oral or spoken communication formats. So basically what we use is a range of linking expressions, such as a sequencing language like firstly, secondly, thirdly, to sum up. That's a great way to structure your ideas. And then to link them together, we can use transition words like following on from that, then, afterwards. We can use contrasting words on the one hand. On the other hand, in contrast, we can use information or words for adding further information. Furthermore, additionally, these linking words really help you to create a nice flow in any of your writing as well as your spoken English. So I encourage you to start adopting and implementing these linking expressions into your discourse and in your emails. It's probably easier in the beginning to use them in emails because then you've got time to think about it, and that will help you to improve your clarity in your emails, and then you can use them in your spoken English as a next step. So on the blog post, you can grab a copy of my linking words document, which you can download for free. So head over to The Art of Business English and check it out. Okay. So basically that's it from me today. Just a quick episode. I'm here alone. I'm at my school and we're very busy working away, getting ready for some exams. And just wanted to clarify and give you some tips on being a better communicator. So my final thoughts, basically, you need to be an effective communicator. It's one of the most important skill sets you can have. It will improve productivity within your organization, and it will make you a much more effective leader, a much more effective employee, a much more effective colleague. And generally, having clear communication skills will result in less emails being sent, less phone calls, less questions, and just taking the time to explain things clearly. If you are in a rush, maybe you think that I'm getting things done faster, but the next email and the next meeting that is called unnecessarily to clarify the things is just going to lead to more wasted time. So take on board some of these tips. Download a copy of my Linking Words document, and I'll see you all next week on the Art of Business English. Take care. Bye for now.